Okay, guys. So today we're gonna carry on with what we were doing, the reading section. So we're gonna just start off where we left last class. So remember that we were looking at the types of questions that we have in the reading section. Remember that we have seen or we have talked about 10 types of questions, and we went over vocabulary and detailed types of questions, and we're missing the other ones. But remember that those two are the most important ones, right? Because those are the most frequent ones. And today we're gonna try to hurry up a bit to try to finish up with the other types of questions, right? So now let's look at the except type of question. So in this first question, which is not so frequent, you may have one or two per passage, but it's very common as well. I think you always have at least one of them. So I think it's important to also know how to approach this type of question. So as you may be guessing from the name, they're going to be asking about information that's not in the passage. So it's pretty much the opposite of the detailed question, or it's, yeah, the other way around, you know? So it's the detailed question, but in this case, they're not going to be asking about information that's explicitly said, but about information that's not said in the passage, that's not mentioned, that's not there. And yeah, obviously the best way to answer this type of question is by eliminating the options that are mentioned in the passage. So then the one that you have left, that's the one that you're going to be looking at. I mean, that's the one that you need, right? That's your answer. I gotta say that this takes a bit of time because it's like a list of things, you know, you're gonna go, yeah, I mean, one by one, all the options that you have, and you're gonna be eliminating them. So that takes a bit of time. It's not as direct as the other ones. But it still shouldn't take you more than 1 minute, like 1 minute and a bit more maybe, but that's it. So, okay, in order to look at this, we're gonna continue reading the same practice set. Remember, it's the one offered by the ETS, so it should be very similar to what we are gonna be facing in the day of your test. So now we're gonna be answering the third question, question 3. So let me see. Okay, so we're gonna continue with this passage, the rise of Teotihuacan, you guys remember, and we're gonna be answering question 3, which is the except type of question. Okay, so here it is. All right, guys. So will anybody wanna read the question and the options, please? Can anybody read?
I can go.
Okay, thanks so much, Kaitan.
Which of following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in development of Teotihuacan?
Okay, and the options, please, if you will.
Okay. The presence of obsidian in Teotihuacan Valley, the optional B, the potential of extensive irrigation of Teotihuacan Valley lands, C, a long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley, D, Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route.
Okay, guys. Okay, thank you so much, Kaitan. So now we're gonna read the paragraph. And we actually have read this last class, but you're gonna read it one more time because you probably won't remember. So you can read now and try to tell me what the answer is. And then we're gonna see how to approach the question. But right now, please try to read and let me know if you think you got it. Okay, so have you guys found it yet? Which one is it?
I think it's A.
A, okay, perfect. Who else?
I think it's C.
C, A or C? All right. So I want one more, maybe. Okay, let's go with Adriana. What do you think? Is it A or C, or do you have another one in mind?
I think it's A.
A2. Okay, so we have 2 for A. Perfect. So now let's see. Okay, let's see why you guys are pointing at A or C. Okay, so the first thing you really want to be careful with, and I think that the very one biggest mistake that people tend to do in this type of question, okay, Corina also says C, is, well, basically the same mistake that most people do in the detailed type of question, which is they look at the question and they forget about everything else that's there. You know, they just, which of the following is not mentioned, and then they just read in paragraph 2. So that's it. You know, the same as we saw in the detailed type of question. So they think that the question is actually asking for a summary of the whole thing, and then they go for the one that is not mentioned or the one that's mentioned the less. But that's just gonna get you mixed up. You really want to look at your keywords. So what do you guys think? What are the keywords in this case? What would you say the keywords are? That's the first thing that you guys do in this type of question. Find your keywords. So what are those words that are important to know where the answer is?
Main factors.
Good, main factors, that's it. So main factors in the development of Teotihuacan. So that's what we're looking at. And now you look for those keywords in your paragraph, which, as you may know, it's here. So how did this tremendous development take place? So one among the main factors of the development of Teotihuacan are, now I want you guys to pay attention to this. Usually in this question, you will always have the exact same thing. You will have a list of things. So if you think about it, it's like a recipe, right? You have, it's like, literally speaking, I think I mentioned this last class, it's an enumeration. So you have a list of things separated by commas. Sometimes they will be separated by periods, and you have the whole thing in the, you have the list in the whole paragraph. And sometimes they are separated by commas, but you will always have the list of things. So you just have to go back one by one, eliminating the ones that you have. So what are those things that you do have? You have Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route. You have the second thing, the obsidian resources, and you have the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. That's it. You stop reading there, because the thing that's next, that's just gonna mix you up. Now, if here's a mistake, right? Here's the thing that people would do if they are not really paying close attention. They would say, oh, but here I have something about volcanic eruptions. I have something about sea, right? But okay, so yeah, I think the answer, what do you guys think? What's the answer? We have this one. Okay, so we have this one, yes, we have this one, and we have this one, right? Obsidian, that's here. Location, here. And irrigation is here. So the only one that's missing within our answer is C, as you guys said. So the mistake that people will do is they will think of other factors, and they have something about a volcanic thing, and that's gonna freak them out. So just remember that you have your keywords. They're not asking about other factors, they're asking about the main factors, and those are up until here, right? You don't wanna read anything else. So remember, it's not a summary, it's just like a checklist that you gotta be checking one by one, the one that you have left, the one that you don't have, or the one that you have left, that's your answer. Okay, so just keywords, narrow down your information, and yeah, just go one by one, eliminating the ones that you do have. I think this one is quite easy, to be honest, but it really depends on the way you see it. So is that okay for this type of question? Any questions about the task? Okay. So moving on to the next one. I think this one is not harder, but it requires a bit more logic. So this is the inference question. And in this case, they're not going to be asking about information that's explicitly said. They're going to be asking about information that they imply. So do you guys know what imply means? What does it mean to imply something?
Means that you must read between lines.
Yes, exactly. So you must read between the lines to know what. So it has some hidden meaning, right? So there's something more than what you see, than what you're reading. So implied information is information that's not directly stated, but you can kind of come to a conclusion. You can draw conclusions from the information that you do have and inference something, right? So you can infer something, sorry. So that's why these are called inference questions. So the thing is, you will not find the answer in the text. You just have to reason it out, okay? It's not going to be there if you're looking for it. Even if you read a 1,000 times, you will not find the answer. So it's not about finding the answer, but it's about getting to the answer, okay? If you know what I mean. So we're going to see how that works. So right now we're going to be answering question 4, the next one. And you will identify this question because it always starts in the same way. What can be inferred from, about? It always has those same words, okay? So whenever you find yourself, whenever you find a question like that, what can be inferred about? That's an inference question. It means that you will not find the answer. You have to get to the conclusion of, I don't know, until you get to one of the options that you have. So we'll see how that works. So who can read the question now? I don't know, maybe Camila, you there?
Yes, teacher, I'm here.
Okay, so would you please read the question for us?
Sure. What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Quilco prior to 200 BC? I read the options.
Yeah, please.
Okay. It was fairly small city until that date. It was located outside the Valley of Mexico. It emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. Its economy relied heavily on agriculture.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. So now the same thing, please try to read. I'll give you 1 minute, a bit more. Read the paragraph and try to get to the answer. Remember, in this case, being honest, you do have to read the entire paragraph. Of course, you don't have to read the entire passage, but it's not like in the vocabulary questions where you can just read the sentence, or in the detailed questions where you find your keywords and you just have to read maybe that or the next or previous sentence. So no, in this type of question, you do have to read everything because as you can see, you don't really have that much information, you know? It's about from paragraph 3, the whole paragraph. So you do have to read the whole thing. Okay, so please read and try to get Okay, so another important thing that I forgot to mention, if you notice at the beginning, we have this last factor. So if you want to have a bit of more context and know what that factor is, they are referring to the last sentence of the previous paragraph. The volcanic eruptions of the late first millennium BC. That's what they're referring to. Okay, this is the previous paragraph. So that's the factor that they're talking about, the volcanic eruptions. So what do you guys think? Which one is it gonna be?
I think it's D.
D, okay, perfect. Anybody else? Kate, what are your thoughts? Is it D?
I think it's option C.
Option C, okay. And what about you, Adrian? Is it, do you have one in mind?
I think it's D.
D2, okay, so it must be, well, that's the most popular one. Let's see. So, I don't know, either Adrian or David, can any of you guys explain why you think D is the answer?
Do you want to go first, Adriana?
Okay, thanks. I think it's D because between the second and the third line, we can see that Coquilco was seriously affected by a volcanic eruption with much of its agricultural and land covered by lava. So after that, it says that that success eliminated Coquilco as a potential rival. So I can infer that the main reason is Coquilco was eliminated as a potential rival was that they lost their agricultural land.
Okay, nice, great. So anybody wants to add something to that? Anybody who's in favor of C or D, sorry? Okay, and what about C? Kate, you said C, right? What do you think C is? Why do you think C is the answer?
I think that because after Coquilco was eliminated, Teotihuacan was or have emerged as a leading economic and political power in central Mexico.
You know what? You're right. You're completely right. But read the question. Don't forget to pay attention to the details. Are they talking about Teotihuacan or Coquilco?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So yeah. So you're right. You know, pay attention to those details. They, you know, those might be tricky. So yeah. So do you think D is the answer now, Kate? Are you
Yes.
convinced? Are you persuaded?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's D.
Okay, so it is D. Congratulations, guys. It was D. So its economy relied heavily on agriculture. And it is exactly because of what Adrian said. So if you look at these lines, I mean, you want to read this, you want to pay attention to the sequence of events. You know, you have a story here. So the first thing you have, or the first thing you know, is that the largest of these centers about that time, you know, around that time, prior to 200 BC, was Coquilco. And what happened then? So then there was this volcanic eruption happening. And as Adrian said, much of its agricultural land was covered by lava. And what does that mean? Or what does that cause? So after that, Coquilco was eliminated as a potential rival. So you have three things, you know, Coquilco being a powerful, the largest of the centers, a great city. Then you have the volcanic thing happening, and then you have Coquilco being eliminated as a potential rival. So what's going on there? Something's missing, right? So why were they eliminated as a potential rival after this volcanic thing happened? It must be because its economy relied heavily on agriculture, right? That's what's missing. It's like a third step that you're missing here. So you don't have that information, but you can infer that information. You know, it can be there. What else? What can I say? So just that, you know, think about what's missing, the information that's missing. I remember someone once said, I think it could be B, because here they're saying something about coexisting in and near the Valley of Mexico. So it must be that they were outside the Valley of Mexico. So it made kind of sense, except for this in that you have. But even if you didn't have this in, you know, even if it were just coexisted near the Valley of Mexico. So even then, I would think that that's too easy, you know, it's too direct to be the one. So this is going to be about indirect information. So you really want to read between the lines. As David said, you want to look for the one thing that's missing and follow the steps, you know. So great. Another tip I could give you for this question is it's usually about important stuff. So you want to think of what's the main idea of this paragraph. So what's the main idea of that paragraph? And if you realize it's about Cuicuilco and the volcanic eruption and how that helped Teotihuacan develop, right? That's the main idea. So it's probably never going to be about these details, like it was a fairly small city until that date, because that's not that important, you know? So it's something related to the big thing, to the big topic of the paragraph. So that's another thing I could say. All right, guys. Any questions so far? Okay. So moving on to the next type of question, we have the purpose or function questions, which are not that frequent. Sometimes you get them at least one in your passage. Sometimes you don't have any of those in your passage, but they are usually there, you know, so you will have like 3 total in the reading section. So what they're asking for is you analyzing author's choices. So this is the one that's closest to doing like literal analysis, you know. So you gotta think about why the author did certain things, or why the author included certain sentences or certain words or certain ideas in the text. So you have to analyze that. In order to answer it, you have to relate the question to the overall picture. And to be brutally honest with you guys, sometimes they're gonna take a bit of time. So sometimes. So my advice. Okay, no, let's get to the types of these questions that you could have. So sometimes these questions are going to be asking about the purpose of a word. So something like, why does the author use the word picture in this sentence? Or sometimes you will have a purpose of a sentence or the purpose of an idea, something like, why does the author talk about this in the text? Or why does the author, uses this sentence here? And sometimes, not so often, but you will be asked about the purpose of a paragraph. So what is the function of paragraph 3 in the text? So in this case, when they ask you about the purpose of a paragraph, that's where it's a bit harder. That's when you wanna maybe skip the question, like choose one randomly and go back at the end, especially if you're not reading the entire passage. So if you guys have decided not to read the passage first and do what we're doing right now, you know, just read the paragraph and answer the question. If you have decided to do that and you find one of these questions, like what is the purpose of this paragraph, then what you can do is just choose one randomly or the one that you feel could be the answer, and you go back later after you have finished the passage, because you have to have a little bit of context. Okay, so, but if you have the purpose of a sentence or the purpose of a word, then it's no problem. you can answer these questions without reading the whole passage. Okay, so let's see what we got. All right, no. Okay, no, that's not the one. All right, so here's the one. Now we're gonna be looking at question 8 from this set. This one here, in paragraph 6, the author discusses in order to, and that's about paragraph 6. So we're jumping to paragraph 6 already. Okay, so this time maybe Nicolas, could you please read the question?
Sure. In paragraph 6, the author discusses the thriving obsidian operation in order to A, explain why manufacturing was the main industry of Teotihuacan, B, give an example of an industry that took very little time to develop in Teotihuacan, C, illustrate how several factors influenced each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city, and D, explain how a successful industry can be a source of wealth and a source of conflict at the same time.
Okay, thanks so much, Nicolas. Okay, guys, so I'll leave you with a paragraph here. You have the question as well. So try to tell me what the answer could be, or what you think the answer is. Okay, guys. So any ideas?
Is it C?
C, okay. Let's see, we're gonna find out. Dana, what do you think? Another? Maybe Camila? What can you say?
Okay, I think that could be A.
Okay, all right. What else? Karina, what about you?
I think it's C.
C too. Okay, so 2 people agree on C. Anybody else? Okay,
I think it should be D.
D. Okay, so 2 people already said D as well. All right, so nobody is gonna go for B? Shall we eliminate that one? Okay. All right, guys, so I need someone to explain A. Why would A be the answer? Who said A?
I say A.
Okay, why A?
Because in the first part, I see that mention many things that could be with manufacturing. I think that these things can be with manufacturing,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. What about C? Why C? Can someone explain?
Because it is discussed how the extraction of obsidian needed other industry to develop. And at the end, we ended up with the phrase saying, they resulted in non-powerful and wealth for the elite. So that is maybe
Okay.
why it's C.
All right. Good explanation. Okay. And finally, D.
Okay, I think the answer is a few lines later. It says that all of this increased wealth. Mhm.
Okay. Lead to increased wealth. And how's that what do we have? Okay, let me see. How's that a source of conflict?
In the next sentence, it says that the growing power of the elite who control the economy will give them the means to physically coerce people to move to Teotihuacan and serve as additions to labor force. That means that it happened some conflict between the society, right? Between workers and the elite.
Okay, yes, you're right. So yeah, I actually hadn't thought about it. So you're saying, yeah, it led to increased wealth, but at the same time, I mean, physically coerced people, that's basically slaves, right? So it was kind of like, all right. So I think I know what you mean. So yeah, it created a conflict between the people and the elite. Okay, so I'm actually torn between, okay, where's my hand losing? Okay, so I'm actually torn between C or D. Okay, and the answer is actually C. So Danny was right. But let's try to figure out why D is not the answer and A is not the answer. Okay, so in this type of question, usually when they're asking about the purpose of a sentence or an idea, especially, you want to really look at what the paragraph is about. That's remember in the slides that related to the overall picture. So the overall picture is if they're asking about a sentence or about an idea mentioned in the paragraph, you want to relate that to the overall idea of the whole paragraph. If they're asking about the purpose of a word, then you want to relate the word to the function of the sentence, and how the word contributes to the sentence. And in this case, how this idea, the thriving obsidian operation, contributes to the overall idea of the paragraph. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the main idea of the paragraph. And to be honest, I think that, remember, I think last class I said this, right? There's one thing that you can always do to know what one paragraph is about. And that is read the first sentence or the first line, and you will have a really good idea of what the paragraph is about. If you think about it, in the writing section, we did the same thing, right? Remember that both in the independent and in the integrated writing, the first line was always your argument, right? And then at the end, not at the end, but in the next sentences, you have to support that idea, right? If you say in the first sentence. So I think, I don't know, Messi is the best player. And then you just have to provide evidence to support that idea that you put at the beginning. So it's the same thing in this text that you're going to be reading, okay? At the beginning, you have like an argument. You can see it that way because it is an argument. So this first sentence, it's an argument, and the other ones are just supporting information. So they are trying to support that idea. So you have the main idea, and then everything else is just supporting information. Now, at the end, you have like a short conclusion, and that's something that I hadn't thought about, that Danny said, you know, in more power and wealth for the elite. So you do have like a brief closing idea that can also summarize the whole paragraph. So that's what you can do, you know, it's like a trick, something quick to do. Read the first sentence, maybe the last part, and you have an idea of what the paragraph is about. So in this case, if we read the first one, the picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining and working, trade, population growth, irrigation, religious tourism. So we have tons of factors here or of elements, right? But basically, the picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among different elements. So that's the main idea. Now, everything else that's mentioned is going to be supporting that idea. Now, another thing you guys, in this case, want to look at is this word or this phrase here. For example, so the thriving obsidian operation, for example, so this thriving obsidian operation, you know now that it's exemplifying something, it's illustrating something, it's an example, right? Don't you agree? So if it were something like explain why, you would have something like, this is because the thriving obsidian operation would necessitate more miners and blah, blah, blah. That would be how or why, sorry. If you had explaining how, it would be something like, this was done by the thriving obsidian operation necessitating more miners, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but if you have something like, for example, right after the thriving obsidian operation, then you know that this thriving obsidian operation is an example of something. So it must be, I don't know, it could be B or C, right? Give an example or illustrate. Now I'm gonna ask you these guys. What do you think the thriving obsidian operation is an example of? This is an example of what?
An economic activity.
Okay, but in this text, what line or what idea is that exemplifying?
It's an example of the positive feedback among the factors.
Perfect, that's it. You got it. So yes, it's that exactly. So you have an idea, no? It's like I say, like take this sentence as an example. I could say, I don't know, Bolivia has a lot of diversity, and then I can say, food, for example, is one of the main things that tourists are attracted to. So that food is an example of Bolivia's diversity, right? So basically, when I say that, I could put this, for example, at the beginning as well. I could say, for example, the thriving obsidian operation would necessitate more miners, but it's basically an example of the previous thing. And this is what Karina said, right? The thriving obsidian operation is an example of how Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among different factors. So there you have your answer. You just have to paraphrase that, right? And that's C, how several factors like mining, working, trade, population growth influence each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. And here you have it in your conclusion as well. But basically that means positive feedback, you know? Positive feedback, if you think about it, means like how one factor influence another and influence another in like a change of events to make Teotihuacan a powerful city. So it's like you had a lot of balls bouncing, you know? So basically that. Now, I do think that D makes a bit of sense, you know, but it's not really the main idea. The main idea is not about the conflict that existed in Teotihuacan, and it's also not about manufacturing, no? So think about it. So I think that's a really good way of thinking. Think about the main idea of the paragraph, and you're really, I mean, everything that's mentioned in the paragraph is usually going to be supporting that idea. So you just have to find ways of saying it in different words. These are just synonyms of what you have in the first sentence. Okay, so pay attention to these words that help you answer the question. Try to read the first sentence, probably the last one as well, to get a good summary of what the paragraph's about, and find synonyms to paraphrase that. Once you got your answer, just find synonyms to say it in different words. Okay? So it was kind of a hard one. What do you guys think? Is that okay? Are you all convinced? Okay, so what time is it? Okay, let's hurry up. I wanted to do another example. If we have time at the end, we can do one more for another passage. So you're gonna see that it really works, finding the main idea and relating it to that. Okay, but moving on to the next type of question. We have paraphrase questions, which are probably one of the easiest ones. You have sometimes one per passage, sometimes you have none. And what they're asking is basically what you're going to be doing in all of the questions, like we did right now, paraphrasing the first idea. So you're just going to have to do that. We're going to have to paraphrase a specific idea or a specific sentence and find synonyms or things that are related. Now, I like this question a lot because it doesn't take up more than 30 seconds. The thing is, basically, this is how it works. So then you got the question, you got the sentence, and then you got the options. You don't have to read anything but that. You don't have to go back to the paragraph the way we did with the other questions. So since it's good for time, that's why I like it. So we're gonna see. Actually, in this set, you didn't have any of those type of questions. Remember that sometimes you will have 0 of them. So that was one of those cases. So we're gonna be doing one from another passage, okay? But remember, you don't have to read anything. It should be fine. Okay, guys, so if you want a bit of context, this passage was about the theory of evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution. So this theory that they are referring to, by the way, is the theory of evolution. That's everything you need. So now please read the question on your own and try to come to that paraphrase. Try to tell me what the answer is. Let's see.
I think that the answer is A.
A?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Anyone disagrees?
I'm between A and C.
Okay, those are good options. Yes, that's right. So C is also kind of, we can consider C. Let's see. Okay. Anybody want to go for B or D? Or do you all want to discard?
I want to go for A.
A, okay. So we have 2 A's. Let's write that one. Okay, so actually the answer is
Okay.
A. So the answer was A. Now B and D, I'm glad that you discarded those options. Now the best tips I could give you for this type of question is first, in your paraphrase or in the answer that you're going to be choosing or in the option you're going to be choosing, make sure that it doesn't include anything that's not mentioned in the sentence. Even if that information may be mentioned in the paragraph or in the text that you have read, don't let that mix you up you just have to go for one that contains exactly the information that this sentence has. It doesn't have to include anything that's not within your sentence, and it doesn't have to also, it doesn't have to like exclude something. Like it doesn't have to like not include relevant information out of that sentence either. So it's basically just have to be the same idea in different words. Now, of course, we have something about a controversy. We have something about it's hard to make assumptions, and we don't have anything about, non-life, how this evolved, indirect manner. So it's definitely not what controversy are we talking about? We don't have anything about whether it's hard or not to make assumptions. So it's definitely not D. The same goes for B, right? Where evolution occurs, that's not really the idea that's being explained here, right? The theory is based on the assumptions that, so basically the idea of this sentence is what this theory is based on. What is the theory based on? This is based on the assumptions that life developed from a non-life and blah, blah, blah. So that's what you're looking at. Now, A has pretty much everything we need, right? The theory of evolution, that's the theory founded, is based on assumptions. That's the only thing that makes me doubt a bit. I don't know. I think they went somehow, I don't know. It's not, isn't it? I don't think it's the same, assumptions and evidence, but let's leave that for a minute. That non-organic compounds are the basis of life. It's the same thing as saying that life developed from non-life, non-organic compounds, basis of life, life developed, progressed and evolved, developed, indirect manner, and guided away. So it's all synonyms. You got them there. Now, the thing about C, one thing is the structure, we have a conditional here. We have, if we assume this and this and that, his theory holds true. So how do we know his theory is going to hold true? We don't have information for that in this sentence. So though it makes sense, I would have to say that, yeah, A is the closest ones. I'm not going to say it's the same thing because of this word here, evidence and assumptions, but it's the closest one we got. We're not really looking for the same thing, but the most similar to the following sentence. Now, C has some information that we don't know whether his theory will hold true or not. And even though it has some synonyms and some good paraphrasing, it's not the one that we're looking for. Okay. So usually this question shouldn't be a problem. It doesn't take that much time. You just have to have maybe some vocabulary and synonyms in here. But that's pretty much it. So is that okay? Any questions for this one? Okay. Now you're gonna laugh at the next one. Reference questions. I don't even think we should see them, but we're just gonna, we're gonna see them, but very quickly. So in this question, they're gonna be asking about what some word referred to. So it's the easiest one. You just need a bit of grammar, but it's basic grammar, something that you all can answer. So it's like, you guys know nouns and pronouns? Do you guys know what a noun is? Yeah, you all do? Who can tell me what a noun is?
Name.
Good, it's a name. It's the name of something, right? It could be the name of anything you can think of, the name of a group of people like women, or it could be the name of a city like Valencia, or the name of a pet like dog, or the name of a person maybe, or even the word person is a noun because it's the name of something, so it's anything. It's basically like the subject of a sentence, Sometimes you have more than one noun in a sentence, but you can think of it that way. And what's a pronoun?
Words used to substitute a noun.
Perfect, that's it. So word to use to substitute or replace the noun. So you can have a sentence that's like, I don't know, Valencia is the best city. And then you can have another sentence next to it that says, it is also very famous. Okay, so that the noun would be Valencia and the pronoun is it, right? Because it's replacing the noun Valencia. So the question is going to be something like, what does it refer to? And you just have to say Valencia. That's the question. So it's kind of easy. Obviously, they're going to try to make you look harder, like something, maybe you have a bigger subject like Valencia, a city located in this place, and you have the whatever in there. Or maybe you have other pronouns, not just it or you or he or she. Maybe you have something like this city or just this is also okay, but I don't know about this. Maybe, okay, yeah, this city, but in this case, I think it's kind of easy as well. So, but sometimes you will have these indefinite pronouns like those, these, this, or whatever, but it's the exact same thing. So you will see, I'm sure you will answer this in a second. So you don't have to read the entire passage. You don't have to read the entire paragraph either. You can just look at the sentence. Maybe if you, in case you need it, you can look at the previous or following sentence where the word is, and that's it. So here's a question for you guys, and here's the text also. So you can just look at this sentence here and where the word is, and you will know the answer. So please read that and let me know when you got it. Okay, so someone says, David says D. So do you all agree? Yeah, I think, okay, is there anybody who thinks not? So yes, I think everyone goes for D. So yes, that's right, D is the answer. So again, this is an indefinite pronoun, but it's the same thing, you know, over time, what is the subject of this sentence? Beneficial traits and characteristics. So the ones that promote survival are going to be kept in the gen pool, while those beneficial traits and characteristics that harm survival are going to be selected against. So the ones that promote survival and those that harm. And what are we talking about? Beneficial traits and characteristics. So yeah, it's kind of basic grammar. It's the easiest one. I think it's kind of like a gift that they give you. So that's it. All right, guys, so we're missing one question, actually, the last one, the summary questions, and we don't have that much time. So I think we can probably finish off. It's gonna take us 5 minutes next class. Or yeah, I think that's what we're gonna be doing. So do you have any questions though about the class or the types of questions? Or any comments or something? Are we okay? All right, guys. So then I'll start the survey. So if you could please answer those questions before you leave. I really appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, David.
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
See you next class.
Okay, bye.